Butcher's trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies, your alternative to the shit show that will be the third period of tonight's Flyers Lightning game. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And as always, we are joined by Matt Casey. What's happening, man?
How's it going? If you like looking at garbage on screen, you'll definitely like looking at us. So there you go.
I thought you were going to say the Flyers.
I was throwing people for a loop.
Oh, there you go.
Keeping us on our toes.
No.
And speaking of toes, just kidding. I don't know why I said that. Hoagie, what's up, man?
That's a little strange. What's going on, boys? I'm looking forward to talking.
The foot fetish thing was a secret, Derek.
Okay, let's strike that.
Really quick, before we get started, right when the music is going on with our intro, you've got Derek, me, and Hoagie are dancing, and Casey's over there taking notes. And the way things are going, I'm just waiting for him to show us notepad. All work, no play makes Casey a dull boy. All work, no play makes Casey a dull boy.
I'm making the American Psycho notebook. It's just gonna have like Gritty's head, like
What could he possibly be writing right now?
I literally like barely looked at the rundown, so I was just trying to take a couple notes here.
Don't worry, I'm sure you can figure out what we're going to talk
Trying
about.
to be professional, John.
Let's be honest. A lot of this is
Even
going to
though
come
we're
from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've got a wonderful episode laid out here for you folks. It's going to be chock full of disappointment and bad stuff, really. So with that being said, let's get into it here. We've got a week of hockey to recap. 2 of the 3 scheduled games actually were played. Islanders game was postponed, obviously, COVID. You know, they'll do that for the Islanders, but they won't do it for the Flyers last year. Anyways, it appears at least, and I know that the game is not over yet, but it appears that the Flyers are going to get out of this week with no points out of those 2 games they played. They lost to the Rangers 4-1. They are currently down to the Lightning, not on the Lightning. That'd be kind of kinky. Down to the Lightning.
Maybe they'd be doing better.
They might be. No, that would have to be the refs. But anyways, no. It's ugly. It's ugly in Flyerland. There are no two ways about it. It's been a piss poor week of hockey. John, take it away.
It's like that really crappy song by Seether, man. This Flyers team is broken. You know, I wanted you to know I love the way you live. No, anyway, I truly don't even know what to say anymore. We are beating the most dead horse that we've ever found by just talking about how crappy this situation is. Now, I didn't watch the first period of the game, but I feel like what Matt Casey said in our little group message really summed it up. He said the first period of this game was arguably one of the best periods we've played, and we're still down 2-0.
Yeah.
That sums up this season. Even when it looks like we're starting to turn it around, we can't. And I truly don't know what else to say at this point besides just feeding off what these other schmucks have to say, because we're broken. I don't see this getting any better until I don't know.
Until further notice.
Until further notice, yes.
Yeah. Hoagie, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, the song that just keeps playing in my head, if we're talking about songs, is the Wedding Singer. Somebody kill me, please. I'm tired of watching this and getting my hopes up night in and night out. It's brutal to watch. There is no fixing it at this point. Like, it just needs to be blown up, even more so than it already has been. Like, it's just brutal to watch.
It is. It is terrible. That's why we decided to do this show tonight, so we didn't have to sit through the third. Give you folks an alternative aside from the piss poor showing we're seeing. Matt Casey, your thoughts on the past week in Flyers hockey here?
Yeah, it's been brutal. And the only song that's coming into my head is the Cranberries' "You Have to Let It Linger," because that is and just the "Do you have to let it linger" part of it just in my head.
Have to? Do you
There-
have to
there you
let
go,
it
John.
linger? Yeah, it's a great song. I sing that song when I fart.
It's good. It's good.
Do you see what this like losing streak has done to us all?
Oh no, that I would have said that if we were winning.
And look, I was at the Rangers game on Wednesday night, and I actually didn't think our first period was terrible, at least from my view. But obviously, like, all of it's for naught if you can't score a freaking goal. And right now, I think you're seeing what the strain of scoring 0 goals, or like 1 goal a game, is putting on the goaltending, because Carter Hart just laid an egg for 30 minutes in this game.
It's been bad. It's been horrid. It has been like the worst showing of hockey I think I can remember in recent memory. I mean, we're looking at a team that's on the cusp now of losing 8 straight.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and let's be honest, they're going to lose 8 straight. They're down 5-0 right now. What can be done to? I don't even know. Like, I don't. Is there anything that can be done to right the ship right now, or at least stop this slide? I'm gonna go back to you, Matt Casey.
Yeah, I mean, I look at last year, and this game right now reminds me of our play last year. And I look at, even though it was a decent showing in the first, and actually the second wasn't terrible, but Carter started playing like crap. You know, you had that horrid shorthanded goal that he just Fredoed all over the place, and then you have a shot that he should have stopped. Whoever scored that, I think it was the guy's like first NHL goal or something like that too.
Yeah.
So you know, you have a couple goals that are on the goalie. I know it's not always on the goalie, but you know, last year the excuse that we got, and I think I bought into it as many people did, was we were very young and we did not have any practice time. We're like one of the oldest teams in the league now, and we just had 3 friggin' days off for practice. And you come out and you can't score a goal over 2 periods, and you let 5 up. At this point, what needs to be done to answer the original question is you get rid of AB. Like, you get rid of them. You start fresh with it. You can't get rid of 7 players right now. You have to get rid of the coaching staff. And that is the only way that it's going to happen. And if we lose tomorrow night, I'm betting that he is done by Wednesday.
All right. So hold on to that thought, because we're going to revisit that here in a second. But Hoagie, what has to be done to stop this skid right now and avoid going 9 straight without a win?
I'm at a loss for words. I don't know anymore. Like, we've run through a million things. A firing of a coach could possibly help, but I mean, who you want to bring in that's gonna actually, like, you know, light a fire under these guys' butts to even get them to produce? We're not scoring any goals. That's our thing right there. We need a goal scorer on this team. We don't have anybody that's shooting the puck with the intent to actually get a goal. It's just, you know, I'm just going to take a shot and hope it even makes it to the fucking netminder. Excuse my language there. There's probably going to be a couple.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, it's the offense. The offense needs to be changed. We need someone that can come in and be a bona fide goal scorer.
Mm-hmm. The Flyers have given up 34 goals so far in these 8 games. 12 goals for. Like, it's baffling that this team cannot generate offense. When you clamored about the fact that, we're bringing in Keith Yandel, we're going to bring offense in for the blue line. Atkinson's going to shoot. He's going to be the exact opposite of Voracek. He's going to score goals. That isn't happening right now. Sure, we saw it in the first handful of games. Great. No consistency whatsoever. JVR, no goals on the season. One guy that's supposed to be sitting in front of the net.
He has 1, doesn't he?
He has 2.
JVR does. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Lindblom. My fault. I did homework, just not that homework. John.
Yes.
What's got to be done to right the ship, man?
I mean, listen, I truly don't know if this ship can get righted, but I agree with Casey. You got to get rid of AV, and I know we're going to talk about it more, so I'm just going to keep it at that. But I also think what Hoagie said, you have to go and you have to get a goal scorer. You need to also address that the players on the ice aren't producing. And although I don't really agree with acquiring this guy in normal circumstances, I think you go balls to the wall and get a guy like Tarasenko.
I thought you were going to say Evander Kane for a second. I was like,
oh no,
don't do it, man.
no. As fun as that would be to talk about,
that's a rabbit hole.
I just think right now, like, you've addressed that you need scoring help, especially somebody who can shoot the puck on the power play, even if you have to overpay for them. See if they'll take JVR with everything else. But you have to go and get a guy like Tarasenko along with firing the coach.
What do you think, not to sidebar too much, but what do you think a Tarasenko deal would look like? We know he wants out of St. Louis. So I mean, they definitely have some leverage here, but I don't know if it's as much. But what do you think a deal would look like?
Well, I think the GM still wants to and believes that they can win now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he necessarily wants picks and prospects, right? So maybe you could sell him on a guy like JVR as long as you'd probably have to throw in a prospect and a pick. I don't necessarily see Chuck Fletcher and Armstrong coming to an agreement where it's like Fletcher be like, you know what, I'll give you a guy like TK. I think he'd be very hesitant to do so. I think it would have to be JVR, maybe Morgan Frost.
Yeah, I was thinking like an NHL ready prospect.
And then a partridge in a pear tree. Like you'd have to you're going to have to overpay for him. The way that I kind of read this situation in St. Louis is Armstrong's in no hurry. He's like, if Tarasenko's going to help us win, I don't really care if he wants to leave.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like
I don't see how they would
playing either.
What are you going to say, Casey?
Yeah, go ahead, Case.
I don't see how anyone wants JVR right now. I can't imagine how anyone wants him.
I know, but so then I'll flip it to you then. Who would you give? Because if you're the Flyers, right, you're grabbing Tarasenko hoping you can turn this season around. You're not getting him for next year. So who would you part ways with?
Look, if they were able to take JVR, I would want to get rid of JVR. But I think more realistically, we're looking at TK and somebody for him, and that may be, I would say, like one of our top prospects. Do we have a top prospect? Like at this point, like
not really.
So I also think like they're not they're not going to blow it up, but like, could there be a multiplayer move? I think St. Louis is actually doing well. I think it would work with somebody like Vancouver, who is looking to like shake it up, and so are we. And you just need some guys with quote unquote change the scenery. By the way, I just saw that Bruce Boudreau is set to be announced for Vancouver's coach.
Elliot Friedman just tweeted it out like 5 or 10 minutes ago. Damn,
we are what we are.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Come on, Tortorella.
So I don't see how a like JVR plus prospects is gonna like do anything for them. I think if it's a TK, and at this point, I don't give a F. Like, I don't care. Get rid of it. Like, he's not doing anything for me either. You're right. The players aren't playing, so this whole thing is just kind of blow it up.
I think we all need to come to terms with the fact that JVR is going to be a Flyer for the foreseeable future, unless they buy him out. But even then, that has such a negative impact on the cap that we're already strapped for. We're stuck with him, man. Like, we had a hard enough time selling Ghost, and Ghost took how many picks just for future considerations?
Right.
Like, he's almost twice the cap hit.
Could you get a third party involved, though? Like Arizona. I mean, to my understanding, Arizona is all about being a third party and getting some more draft picks. Like, if you could do a three-way deal with St. Louis and Arizona, somehow getting JVR to Arizona. I just don't know how you bring in a big number like Tarasenko without dumping that kind of contract.
It'd have to be like the Foligno deal or like the what was it Savard deal last year, where there was a three-way trade where one team that basically was just involved to absorb some of the cap and retain money.
Right.
Yeah, like I still don't see it happening though. Like, what's he gonna do? I mean, you talk about Arizona. Arizona was where Gostisbehere went, and it took how many picks just to persuade them to take $4.5 million off our books, and he's their leading scorer.
But that was a
Christ's sake.
two-team deal.
It was.
I truly don't know how these three-way deals work.
Nah,
but they seem to happen. So
he's
I
only
don't
saying
know.
that because his wife's one of the 3 viewers right now.
Right.
Oh yeah, dude, really funny. Now that you brought her up, we do have a comment that I wanted to get to really quick. It says, "The Flyers are terrible to watch, but not as terrible as watching that child diddler with that serial killer mustache."
Hey,
You can barely
so-
see Hoagie's mustache. Come on.
Screw you. Hey, so update on the Tampa game. We're now losing 6-0.
Hey, wonderful. All right.
The
So
partridge in
35
the pear
goals
tree.
in these last 8 games, all 8 losses.
So can we talk about firing the coach now?
Thank you
Yes.
for
Like,
ruining my segue.
This is a fireable game.
Yep.
I
is.
thought the Rangers game was a fireable game.
They've all been fireable games at this point. Every single one of them for the past 2 weeks. After every game, it's like fire him into the sun, get rid of him. I don't want to see him anymore. I mean, I did a little bit of homework and looked at some of the worst slides for this team over the past God knows how many years. And they've lost 10 games straight 3 separate times. And it's all within the last 15 years. And every single time they went on a 10-game skid, no coaching changes were made.
Really?
No coaching changes were made. They went on a 9-game skid. No coaching change was made. 8-game skid. This will be the second time they go on an 8-game skid. No change was made. They rode the wave, whether it was John Stevens or Dave Haxtell, or in the one case, it was Scott Gordon as the interim, which, I mean, coaching changes don't really matter when you're talking interims. But, they've never been about making those types of moves during these types of skids, and they've rode it out. I mean, quite honestly, I think we're past that point. We can't ride this out with all the changes that were made last season, over the offseason, the overhaul that occurred. We're past that now.
Right.
We want blood. A lot of us want blood and heads to roll.
Chuck Fletcher can't have the offseason he had last offseason, being so aggressive, and then allow this to continue. You can't.
Though. Physically can't because of the cap, too.
Right, but I'm just saying, you cannot be I'm willing to do everything to help this team win, and then we wind up here, and then we're sitting on our hands. Clearly, all hope is lost with this regime. I truly, and I try not to get too dramatic with this stuff, but I do not see this set of coaches turning this around.
Nope.
I mean, they would at least have come out and put up some sort of battle against the Lightning tonight with 3 days off. Going to change it all. We're going to win these 2-1 games. Come on, give me a
Down
break.
6-0. Yeah.
Right.
I've got an interesting take on this, and I want to get your guys' opinion, and I could be completely off base here, but I figured it's worth discussing. Do you think that this is borderline mutiny on the players' point? Where
Absolutely.
they just don't want AV as the coach anymore. They see something that we might not see. Obviously, we probably don't see because we're not in the locker room. Is this the players forcing Fletcher's hand, saying, we don't want him here anymore?
Hoagie, go.
Yes,
Go, Hoagie,
absolutely. They've done this in the past 10 years. They've done this with multiple coaches. They just stop playing. They don't give a damn anymore. They make it known to Fletcher, whoever the GM is at the time, we need a change. It's not working. And I think it's screwed up that they do this because no coach, no team should have to go through this. But you see it. You see it happening. You see the lackluster effect. You see the laziness. They're not completing their checks. They're not, rushing the net. They're not doing anything productive at all. And they just give up. And it's so frustrating to watch as a fan because we're screaming for change, which our voices aren't heard at all to Chuck Fletcher, to the Flyers organization. They could care less. But when the players start to do it,
rightly so, by the way, like they
right. But when the players start to do it, then they're like, oh, we kind of screwed up. This should have happened 4 or 5 games ago. What are we doing here?
Right. Even when the players show it, though, it's like, what changes are realistically going to be made? They fire the coach. Okay, maybe it wasn't mutiny, and it was just the fact that the players suck. So then what happens? Like, ownership is not going to look at this and make a decision because their wallets are still getting padded.
Right.
I really do. This is just, I don't know.
Well,
like, this is
that's
unprecedented.
until December 24th, and Santa sacks are still only 50% sold out. Like at some point, I'm looking at trying to bring my kids to a game in late January, and because there's only like 4 matinee weekend games the entire year. And I'm looking at it, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's any Santa sacks left. I was like, there's plenty. There's plenty
Take
out
your
there.
Santa sack and drag it across Dave Scott's face.
and so, and
he's not talking about the actual Santa sack.
Right.
I'm talking about Saint Nick.
So I think it's frustrating because, at the end of last year, we saw the GM and Chuck Fletcher come out and say, I'm not firing the coaching staff. There will not be coaching changes. We are going to change the makeup of this team. Okay, you have changed the makeup of this team, and you've brought in guys that honestly I think we are all excited about, and still you are seeing everyone play down. You're seeing everyone play down a notch. Do I like the fact, I don't know if I fully agree with Hoagie's theory, but I understand it. I don't know if pros are like really going to tank that hard. But at the same time, it's clear that they are not responding to this coaching staff and what they are trying to do. And sometimes you just need a change of a voice in the locker room. And you need somebody to be like, okay, we are holding you accountable. And AV, raw deal, man. Like, that's too bad. But, you might not have just been a good fit for this team. And that's on Chuck, too.
But is the coaching staff doing anything? Because, I mean, and this is the image that's going to stick in my head for the foreseeable future. Literally, right before I came upstairs, I'm looking at the TV, and the last shot on the television was AV standing behind the bench with almost a Hackstall look on his face. Just emotionless. Just
he's gone, too.
Staring into the void.
Right.
Like, he's not, in my opinion, again, like, I have no inside sources. I don't know. That guy's mentally checked out. To me, like that look shows you everything you need to know about where he's at with his head.
So you look at the same look a couple games ago, and I was like, he doesn't want to.
Who's 6'1"?
Oh, shut up, John.
Who scored?
Hey,
Who scored?
Cam Atkinson. Oh my
God! Here we go. We're breaking
guy
out
we
of
thought
it.
was going to be our 13 goals in 8 games. All right.
So look, the other thing I will say, and like the counter argument to everything I just said, is like, yes, our schedule has been absolutely unrelenting and brutal. We've had some injuries. We are getting some guys back. My heart skipped a beat when Couturier, looked like he was going out. I was like, of course, like here we go. Farabee's out until at least after Christmas, I'm betting. And so like, but you look at the schedule as it's starting to shape up, and you have Colorado, who I assume is very good, but I don't pay attention to any Western teams. And then all of a sudden the schedule does start to lighten up, both from a competition as well as a schedule standpoint. And I think this is what Chuck was alluding to in his press conference. We need to see what happens over the next week. This week that we're coming into is like, it's the season. If we go
gauntlet, baby.
If we go, what do we have? Four games starting tomorrow. If we go 0-4, like we're done. But in looking at the standings, nobody has really gained ground in this like kind of lower middle tier of where the standings are. And so if all of a sudden we win 3 of the next 4 or something like that, we might be able to start pulling this around.
But here's the thing with me, though. I understand that this schedule has been tough and the competition has been hard. But if we can't beat these teams, what the hell's the point?
Right.
I mean, this isn't about making the playoffs to me. I could give a crap if we make it to round 1 of the playoffs if we're going to get stomped out by another team that's better than us.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be able
during Hackstall's era too, though. Like, nothing has changed.
Right. And we need to be able to compete. I mean, at this point, I'm not even thinking about the postseason. This is not a playoff team. So much would have to change. quickly that I just don't see it possible. I think what Chuck Fletcher needs to do is go, okay, without telling anybody I'm like looking towards next season, I need to figure out what needs to go here. And to me, right, you can't really do anything with the roster right now. You have to start with the coaching. So you go, okay, if my players aren't playing for AV, let me see what they do with somebody else. Let me see what they do with the next guy. Then you've got your new guy in here. If the players are still playing the same exact way, now you're going, okay, well, because it wasn't the coaching.
It might be the GM.
The wheels.
Right. But like, what do you do at that point? Like, then you just have to go, okay, Dave Scott, this is what's got to happen. We've got to do a somewhat of a rebuild.
The wheels need to be set in motion sometime soon, because with John's plan there, yes, you need to take stock. Absolutely. And immediately, because if you can't find a coach that you think is going to gel, sign him for the rest of the year, trial error, or, just a trial period, if you will, to see how it goes. If the players suck, then you know which ones to offload, you know which ones to ship out.
Which is already done, hypothetically.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was already done, but at the same rate, now here we are, discussing, is it the coaching? Is it the players again? We thought it was the players. Again, same position, almost a worse position, quite frankly. It's Jesus, it's baffling.
If I can just kind of add something else before we move on, or somebody else says something, kind of to go back to Hoagie's theory, where it's like, if the players have decided to, quote unquote, mutiny, I have zero respect for that.
Agreed.
Mentality. If you're like, well, we don't want to play for this coach, so we're just not going to play hard, then I want you gone too.
Yeah.
If that's the mentality that you have, that you're not going to lay it all on the line, regardless of who's behind the bench, see ya. You can go with them too. I don't want that either.
This isn't the NBA.
Right.
We don't have a LeBron.
The other thing I'll say is that,
That's
we to that point, like, we're blaming the coach, and I think there is enough blame to go around there. But our star players, our quote unquote star players, are not playing like star players at all. Nope. And everyone's like, oh, Drew's the best. It's like, okay, Drew's great, but at age 33, he can't be our best player. It can't happen. We just signed Couturier. Like, Couturier, where are you? Like, where the hell have you been? What is going on here?
Where are you?
Is it that he can't be our best player with what he's putting up right now, or just altogether? Because, like, stat-wise right now, sure, like, that stat line shouldn't be our best stat line from a player.
Right. That's grading on a curve.
Rely on him as our, like, go-to guy.
There you go.
Right.
Like, it just that time has passed, and I want him on this team. But, like, Couturier, Konechny, I would even put, like, Atkinson in this group. Hayes is just coming back. Okay, we'll give him a slide, I guess. But, like, and then JVR, the $7 million man who takes 2 shots every 5 games. Like, how do we not hold these guys accountable for the goal scoring aspect that they are being paid to do? And so it's unfortunately, this is the perfect storm of just awfulness. And then also last season happened. Like, we are all we didn't have a great season last year, and it's like, oh, we're not the Islanders. The Islanders must be like, what is happening here?
Right.
We're like, oh, here we go again.
Well, that's the thing, and I want the players to be held accountable too. The only reason I'm all about just firing the coaches, because I just don't see what we can do with the players at this point. Like, to me, there's no real option there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's got to start though with our next topic. I mean, and if there's nothing left to say on this, moving on, it's got to start with moving Giroux. I mean, at this point, we're looking at it, and it's honestly, I think it's probably going to happen. If we can't salvage anything from this season, we need to. I mean, and it's got to happen. The no movement clause needs to be waived. If he has to submit a list of teams, tell him to do it tonight after this game. We need to know, and we need to figure out a way to get something back, because again, chances are slim typically of a guy going somewhere at a trade deadline on an expiring deal and then coming back to his original team.
Right. Yeah, that's
I could see it.
No,
but it's very unlikely. But at the same rate, it's like, we got to recoup something at this point, because then that sends another message. You're going to get rid of AV. You're going to get rid of the coach. You're going to get rid of the captain of the team. And then this team's under an entirely new captaincy. So boom, right there should be the culture change, if you will. But, you know, then it begs another question, which we'll get into another time, I'm sure. Like, who's the next captain?
Well, yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing about this too is I think everybody jumps to this mentality. It's like, okay, so if we trade Giroux, right, we're signaling a rebuild, right? Because you're going to get draft picks, you're going to get prospects. You're not going to get
Not necessarily, though.
No, you are.
You are at this point in his
dude.
career,
If you're gonna bring him, if you're gonna trade him to a contender, they're not going to give you NHL talent unless it's something that they just don't want.
It's going to be NHL
but you got to
ready
find
talent.
the right partner for that. It's going to be NHL ready talent. Sure. I'm not saying they're going to trade him to a contender like, you know, Vegas and get, you know, like a Marchessault back or a Pacioretty or something like that. But you're going to get a serviceable guy that you can plug in, maybe middle six.
I disagree with that. I just, because this will be a close to deadline deal. And I think at that point, what you're going to get in return for at a typical deadline deal is picks and prospects. And I think that the Flyers could get a decent I mean, look what Ristolainen got, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they'll get at least a first round draft pick out of this.
Sure.
And then, but the thing is, then you can take that and use it elsewhere. You don't have to be like, oh, okay, now we're drafting. Right. You can now go out and try to get the players to bring in the new version of the Flyers.
That's why I never cared in the summer. And I think, John, you said this. I don't care about the picks. Like, who cares? Like, we can there's ways that we can recoup picks, and and so I agree with you. It's like, if we're gonna get stuff back, I'm not worried. I want it to be fair value. I just, you know, it just sucks that we're going in already at the like, all right, we're going to trade and get picks and prospects instead of like, can we make an actual NHL trade somehow with another team? And I don't like to try to shake things up a little bit more.
Right. Think back to last season, though, when you looked at the deadline and Washington acquired Mantha. Like, Washington traded away Verana, who's an NHL ready talent, a decent guy, Richard Panik, and then a first and a second round pick from Anthony Mantha. And, like, in my opinion, Drew's better than Mantha.
So, question for you.
Okay.
If you're the Flyers, would you prefer to receive draft picks and prospects that you can trade for players in the offseason, assuming that you're giving up on the year? To me, you're trading Giroux if you're giving up on the year.
Sure.
Or absorbing contracts like a Panik and a Verana.
I wouldn't want to absorb the contracts, but you're still getting a quality player. Like, you're still getting a guy like Verana who's a decent player.
Okay, so but what I'm saying though is if your plan is to then try to improve over the summer, wouldn't you rather have the picks instead of these guys that you're going to have on this roster?
Well,
you'd rather have the aces. If
that's the plan,
right?
But I mean, what is the plan? Like, are we going to go full blown rebuild, or are we going to try to enter this offseason like we did last offseason?
But I'm saying you don't have to go full blown rebuild by trading Giroux. What are you, like, half listening to me?
No, but then they go back to what they did last offseason, and look how that's panning out right now. Like, it's not. Do you see what I mean here?
No.
You don't see what I mean here. So you want to try to basically enter this coming up off season like we entered last off season with like a bit of a retool, if you will. Am I assuming correctly here?
Well, I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I really don't know what I want to do at this point. I'm just saying that they can enter it with that mentality, right? Because like we said on the last show, you can't blow up this roster. You have too many contracts that are stuck on here with term that nobody's going to want, right?
Sure.
So if the idea is, okay, we've gotten rid of the coach. Now we're trading our captain. We're going to bring in a new regime here. Okay. You acquire capital that you can use in the offseason from the Giroux trade to bring in players to hopefully right the ship with the players that you have on this contract. I think that would be the likeliest plan for dealing Giroux, because again, you cannot rebuild successfully right now.
But are you going to get the right amount of capital to make the moves that need to be made? I mean, think about it realistically. Like, Giroux's going to get you a first round pick. He's probably going to get you a pretty decent prospect, honestly. I don't think you're going to get a top end prospect.
Well, he's going
from
to
a
get you
team.
more. He's going to get you more capital than if you just let him walk.
Well, of course, obviously,
Right.
but at the
7-1, 7-1.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
all
Let's not talk about that.
anyways, no, I mean,
Stay on course.
to tell you the truth, I just don't know. I'd like to know where this team wants to go. Obviously, I think we all do, but like until we know that, we don't. Like we just there's no way to really assume what's going to happen this coming up off season, and it's still early to even think about it. But at the same rate, that's where this is headed. Like, what do we have
It's
to
so
look forward
bad that
to?
we're under 2 months. We're under 2 months into the season,
It's not even
It's
Christmas.
sad,
and
It's
we're
sad.
talking about selling the farm already, and like rightly so. But like, I don't know. I get your point, John. It's like, okay, do we just stock the cupboard with stuff so then we can cash that stuff in at the jail store to get
Right.
something nicer for next year?
You just don't you don't have to acquire these and then draft is what I'm saying, right?
Sure.
Like
Right.
you can still go into it with the mentality of I want to win next year. Let me use what I've obtaining from these few players that just aren't working out anymore to see if I can do that.
It's a risky
remember.
move.
I who signed the JVR deal when it came back?
Hextall.
Like
Hextall.
One of those H words.
when that happened again, I was like, I didn't even love JVR when he was here the first time. Like I
Love
just
him more than
can't-
Luke Shen.
Fact.
Fair point. I don't know. I looked at that contract and I was like, God damn it! Like this is gonna come back and just nail us.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And it has. I just, man, moving on from Giroux is going to be a punch straight to the gut, like for the fan in me. But from the business standpoint, it makes too much sense.
Right.
And
Right.
to John's point earlier, you almost have to wait to the deadline. That's when you're going to get your best deal because there are going to be other dominoes that are going to fall. Like you've got a lot of guys on expiring contracts that if they're not on a contending team, they're going to get traded as well. You're hearing rumblings about Brock Besser in Vancouver. Getzlaf, DeBrusque has requested a trade as well. You know, there's so many other guys. Gaudreau even. Like Gaudreau could be on his way out in a trade. Who knows?
Michael
So-
Brownholtz has had a
Pick
lot
'em
to
up.
say, but this is a really interesting question that I think that we should touch on because we are talking about trading Giroux.
Mhm.
Because I struggle with this. Like, who are the core players of this team?
We don't have a core anymore.
I don't know.
Right at this point, is anybody even worthy of that title?
At this point,
Carter Hart, Jinx, throw me a soda.
I owe you nothing.
Are you saying the core or are you saying like the untradeable players?
I'm,
Like
I'm
who-
not saying it. I'm just reading the comment.
So I look at like the core of this
Don't
team.
shoot the messenger.
I look at the core of this team of Coots, G, JVR, TK, and Provorov. Like that's who I see, and I'll throw Hayes in there as well. Like that is what I see of like that this team was built around, and I don't like it. Like that's not.
You're gonna put JVR in that though? Man,
What's that?
You're gonna put JVR in that core?
We
though?
signed the guy to a $7 million like 5-year deal. Like you don't do that to a non-core player. Am I saying I like him on the core? No, I do
Fair
not
point.
like him on the core.
Sure.
But
like if
he's
you're
a
looking
core
at
player.
cap friendly, right? If you're looking at cap friendly and you go, okay, the salary is going to base the core, which in a way should, right?
Right.
Sure.
You're 100% correct on those players.
Right.
Atkinson's up there too. Like
It's not
I
a
mean,
good core by any
No.
stretch, but
No.
it is the core.
as we're seeing play out on the ice.
And in reality, like
A rotten core.
it's interesting too because is anybody here on this roster aside from Carter Hart? I'm talking skaters, untradeable, and don't give
No.
me the Wayne Gretzky bullshit either. Sorry, it's just always like Wayne Gretzky got traded. Nobody's untradeable. But is anybody here untouchable?
I would toss Farabee in there.
No, nobody's
No,
on
I
top. And
would.
after
I'd be
tonight, Carter
reluctant,
Hart's
but-
touchable too. Like, if we get good value for Carter Hart, take Carter Hart.
Right.
Yeah.
And Michael says Provi here. I don't even agree with
Wait.
that anymore.
I like this one because it says Lawton.
Of course you do.
But like Provorov to me is not proving that he's as, valuable as we all thought he was. He is not a number one defenseman. The guy
He's becoming
cannot play.
too dependent on his partner.
Yeah, he's 100%
It's
dependent on his
scary.
partner.
It's
Mhm.
scary.
That's not the makeup of a number one defenseman, like you were saying,
Can't
John.
carry a pair.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the difference. Is he's relying on somebody to like make his game better instead of him
missed
making
maybe.
somebody else's game better.
Or making
Right,
his
yeah.
own game better.
There you go.
Because he hasn't been able to do that lately.
Yeah. I still think it could happen. Like, I don't see him being like a Hedman. I don't see him being like a Doughty or a Keith in their primes, but I could see him being a number one guy,
Right.
just not like a prolific, all NHL number one guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think part of the problem here, and I know I'm hogging a lot of airspace tonight, but
It's making me
whatever, you'll get
uncomfortable,
over
quite
it.
frankly.
We have a
But
lot to say.
I think that one of the things is like, and I said it before, being on our roster, we tend to grade these players on a curve. Like we call Claude Giroux our best player, like Casey, you said before. But what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things, right? Like Provorov, he might be our best defenseman. That doesn't mean that we're in a good spot. That doesn't mean that he's the best defenseman on any of the top teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Shane Gostisbehere. We were viewing this guy as a top pairing defenseman because he's all we had,
Right.
Right.
right? Where it's
Yeah,
like,
but
go ahead.
people are arguing now that Sanheim is our best defenseman on the year. And I don't
Who
think
the
that's
hell?
true whatsoever.
He's been invisible. Like
Right.
he's been absolutely invisible.
And even when
Maybe
he
that makes him the best defenseman then.
and we have said that, Sanheim's best games are the games that we don't say his name.
Mm-hmm.
But he has not been the best defenseman on the year.
Right.
He's been a liability like he always has.
Do we
Yeah.
miss Robert Haig yet?
Absolutely. And I almost tweeted it tonight.
I kind of do.
With the way
kinda
Yandel's
do.
playing, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
but
also
can we-
I look at the Tampa Bay roster, even the Carolina roster. I'm just like, gee, like, are our contracts just so top heavy with like underperforming top six players that we have nothing left in the cap? I know we have no cap space left, but I just look at the makeup of their team, and even without some of their best players, they are just an absolute dominating team.
Well, I think with a team like Tampa, and I said this, Casey, when you weren't on earlier, they hit so many draft picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to build internally to the point where they're so good that you get these older guys who just want to win another cup come in for nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you just have players like, yeah, sure, I'll take the league minimum.
Your
Just-
Corey Perry's, your Pat
Right.
Maroons.
Because they've drafted so well.
Mhm.
I mean, it's insane how well they've built that team internally.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember
We got
when they
Zach
had
Bogosian on a cheap deal too.
Right. Remember when they had Jonathan Drouin?
Right.
Like, could you imagine if that
And they
didn't
were able
fall
to
out like
hit-
it did?
Right. But they were able to hit on that too and get Sergachev. And to me, Drouin's not doing too much, right?
No, I mean he's with Montreal, right?
Right.
Montreal's
They
not doing
kinda
too much either.
suck.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine if he stayed there and he's still producing. Like this
Right.
team would just be a powerhouse, even though it already is.
Right.
Sure. It's just, I mean, to bring it back full circle here, I guess, to the Giroux deal, like, what is there going to be a breaking point where Giroux's going to tell them that he needs to go, or is this something management is going to suggest? And I mean, what's the right way to approach it? What can we anticipate? John, I'll start with you.
Hey, you shouldn't start with me. I've talked too much. Have somebody else go.
Hoagie, I'm going to start with you then. I feel like every episode, John won't shut the hell up, and then we neglect Hoagie, like babies in the corner here.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to neglect one of us, it should be him.
At least it's not me.
Suck it, John.
He's neglectable. Go ahead, Hoagie.
I think this.
Anyway,
will-
moving on to Matt Casey.
What a dick.
I hate this guy.
No, thanks for bringing me in. So
All right, I'll see you guys next week. No, I think it's going to come down to a mutual decision between Giroux and the management. If it doesn't come down to a deadline deal and it comes sooner than that, is this from a standpoint that management is saying that Giroux's the problem and he needs to go? This is just me thinking out loud, which I hope is not the case. But eventually, it's got to happen. You need to have a change in the locker room. And I mean, Giroux's been the face of the franchise for 10 plus years. It's going to be tough, but you have to do him right. You have to send him to go win a cup.
You got to do him right after we've done him wrong for that 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
This is like the biggest travesty.
Right.
But
Philadelphia
here's the
sports.
thing. So here's the thing, though. And sorry, Casey, but I don't want to forget this.
John, go ahead.
Here we go again.
Thanks. If Claude
The floor is
Giroux,
yours, John.
once again, if Claude Giroux is the guy who right now, after say they lose, well, they're going to lose this game, say they lose tomorrow, and goes, Chuck, you know what? I'm done with this. I want to be traded. Good. I mean, go, because then you're not the captain for this team. If you're not the one who wants to stick with it and do whatever they can, you're talking to the general manager about leaving so you can go get a cup, then I don't really care what he's done in the past. It's done, just like AV.
Yeah.
Raw deal. Sorry. See you later.
See you later.
Right.
But what's he supposed to do, though? I'm sorry, Casey, make your point, please.
No, that's all right. My time's passed. No, I would say, I think by Christmas, I think that's when we will know if Giroux is going to come or go. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be based on the record of this team and how we're sitting at Christmas, because it sneaks up pretty quickly and Chuck needs to have time. Like, this isn't going to be like if we're looking at trading before the deadline, which I personally think that we shouldn't wait till the deadline, because you're right. There's going to be a lot of like guys in the last year contracts ready and up for grabs at the trade deadline. You want to find a team that is looking to like noticeably make a run going into the Olympic break and make that happen either right before or right after that freeze. So that's my 2 cents.
But Giroux's going to get to a breaking point, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Like, there's going to be, and I mean, to John's point, I understand where you're coming from. I understand not wanting a guy that doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to be the captain, yada, yada, yada. Can you blame him, though? Like,
No.
Is there any blame that goes on his shoulders, considering the fact that we failed time and time again to build a competitive team around him? The best we gave him was Jake Voracek. The best player we could possibly give him was Jake freaking Voracek.
I would argue Jaromir Jagr was the
I would
best
argue that
player
as well.
Okay. Sure. But here's the thing. Then Jagr went elsewhere. And what happened since then? So, like, you're telling me that
Jagr kept playing. That's what happened.
He kept playing. Yeah, he did. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I think if you would have given Jagr maybe another year or two with this team and you'd have kept building that team, I think we could have won a cup. I think we really could have, but we didn't. And that's the fact that remains. But they never gave Giroux the team that he really deserved, in my opinion. And so at that point, it's like, I can't blame the guy if he walks into Fletcher's office tonight and says, get me out of here tomorrow.
I just think that is without really knowing, assuming that he was never a part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we truly don't know what it's like in that locker room. We don't know, what kind of influence he has. We honestly don't even know what he says on the ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that although I think I'm speaking for all of us, we like what Claude Giroux has brought to this team. We cannot say that with 100% certainty that he's not or wasn't part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We'd all like to think he isn't, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that's looking at it through orange-colored glasses.
And you can also say, like, we understand, like, at breaking point, we want the best for him.
Right.
Because the only person who's, the only people who have been with this team, quote unquote, longer than he has are like us, the fans. And like, we've just seen it come and go. And look, he's been here much longer than almost anyone else. I think he's been the captain longer than Clark now, or getting up there.
Yeah, no, I thought he surpassed him.
You look at somebody like one of the most beloved hockey player, one of the most beloved in Boston history, and Ray Bourque. Like, they were like, oh, you can go get a cup in Colorado, like, go for it. Like, I think that's kind of the mentality that we have to have here. Who do you guys think goes first? Is it AV or Giroux? Who do you think is not
AV?
AV.
I'm
AV
gonna
for
go,
sure.
I'm gonna say Giroux based on the past with the losing streaks.
Okay.
Interesting
is-
take.
Somebody wrote an article. I can't remember who it was about this, but it wasn't the Flyers record of like firing coaches after losing streaks. It was Chuck Fletcher's record of doing it when he was with the Wild, and it was a little bit more like okay, and I can't remember exactly what it was, and it was also like a comparison of who he brought in versus not. Like I the game's over at 7. It was 7-1. Like that coming off a 3-day break, man, and a team going on their back to the back end of their back-to-back. That's fireable. Like, get it out of here.
But you can't fire him before the Colorado game, right? You would assume.
Why the hell
No,
not?
you can't.
I mean,
It's
if I'm the GM, I'm firing him too.
You've
but
got
I'm just
two
thinking-
head coaches, two former head coaches sitting next to him on the
yeah,
bench.
but you don't want those guys.
Well, no, of
Well,
course,
for
but
a
at the same
game.
rate, one game, yeah. You got plenty of time to try to find somebody for by the end of the week, you know.
Right.
I think you got to let him coach tomorrow night, and if tomorrow night's another loss and a decisive loss, like you can't have him behind the bench.
Right.
You can't.
You can't. That's 10 games in a row of losses.
But then let's say they win. Let's say they take it to them and win like
Jesus.
5 or 6 to 1.
At
Then
this
does
point,
it
I
prolong
hope
the
they don't.
inevitable?
I really hope they don't win tomorrow. At this
No,
point,
I'm with you. Like if
Yeah.
it's going to prolong the inevitable, like you
You're
might as
worse
well do
than
it now.
Giroux going in and talking to Chuck about being traded. You
No,
freaking
because
traitor.
nobody's paying
Ask
me
your
8
team to
mil.
win.
Listen,
Nobody's
It's like
paying me
breaking
8
up with
mil.
your
Casey.
girlfriend knowing you're not going to marry her. You know, like why
Listen.
prolong the inevitable? Just bye.
if I'm Giroux tomorrow or tonight, even I go hit up the Colorado Avalanche. I want to be traded after the game. And I'll get on the bus with them. See you later.
Smart move on his part.
Right.
That's why we neglect Hoagie.
Hoagie, what's your thoughts on Ryan Hartman, real quick?
Oh my god, guys.
We touched on that last night. No worries. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
yeah, this is going to be. I really think this is the week something happens.
Mhm.
Whether it's Giroux getting traded, whether it's AV going, this is probably the week where the proverbial poop hits the fan. And I can't wait. I cannot wait
Okay,
for something to happen.
so you missed the third option was that we actually win games.
Because it's not an option. It's
You
not
don't
gonna happen.
you don't think it's feasible?
No,
Before the
not with the
before
last 8
it's-
games.
Before it's too much, no, I don't. I don't think we can win at a rate with this current setup
Right.
that would put me at least in a position to be like, all right, we've turned it around. Let's go to the postseason and win a round or two.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
You're looking at games against Colorado, New Jersey, Vegas, and Arizona. Realistically, we might beat New Jersey and Arizona. You're winning 2 out of 4 games, like 50-50. Still not good
Right.
enough.
They couldn't turn it around with 3 days rest. They're not going to turn it around on this schedule.
Yeah,
Right.
and they lost to New Jersey, just a week ago? So, like, that
Just
does
a
little
week
to
ago,
instill
and they
faith.
didn't. And Jersey didn't have Travis Hughes, right?
Travis Hughes.
Oh,
I think
man.
Travis Hughes
Jack
is like
Hughes.
I think he works
That's,
like at BC or
Travis
something.
Zajac, Jack Hughes.
That's
Travis
that's
Zajac
sweet.
Hughes.
Hughes.
Yeah.
They didn't have Hughes in the lineup. Now he's back. He's ready to go on a tear.
But we didn't have Hayes and we didn't have Ellis. Like
I don't
Made a
care.
huge
you know,
difference
so
when they
I don't
came
care
back
about
for
the
one
Hughes
game.
thing then. Like
Right.
who like everyone's missing players. Like you gotta
Right.
find
Yeah,
find
and teams are
ways to-
still figuring out how to win, and we're not. We're on an 8-game losing streak.
Get him, Hoagie. Get him.
Let's figure that out. Let's score some goals. Like, come on.
for the record, Jersey hasn't won since they beat us. But
We
Doesn't
still
matter.
haven't
They
won in
still
the
beat
8 games.
I mean,
Oh,
well,
boy.
and here's the thing too, right? If Chuck Fletcher comes, like, say they lose tomorrow, right? They lose to Colorado. Let's go. It's another 4-1 shellacking, right? Let's not go
Book it.
7-1 but Chuck Fletcher, if he comes out and is like injuries, patience, got to see
are
this
what we
team.
are.
Fire Chuck
We are
Fletcher
what we
then.
are.
Fire all of them.
People
Dave
stop
Scott
buying
won't do that.
tickets. You have to stop because
Buying,
that
buying
is
tickets,
complacency. And if you're
buying
not going to get
merchandise.
anywhere,
Yeah.
I
you know,
hope
I just and
Pico severs ties with him at that point.
I'm not 100% convinced that we wouldn't hear that either. You know what I mean?
It's the same old State of the Union that we always hear.
How long are we going to be able to use that excuse, though? Like, how long are people?
I'm not saying that it's justified. I'm just saying I'm going to be shocked.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't shock me either because that's
I
the
won't be
status quo
shocked,
for this
yes.
team. Because injuries and COVID and this and that. It's like I don't care anymore. Win games. We've iced, at least on paper, we thought a competitive team. So make us competitive. Do something to make us competitive now. Whether it's coaching, whether it's trading Giroux and getting whatever you're going to get back for him, figure it out. It's your job to figure out how to ice a competitive hockey team. And you're failing at it. And if you're failing at it, you deserve to be fired. I'm done playing nice guy about, I don't wish anybody would lose their jobs. No, now I do.
It's the mustache.
It is. It's the mustache.
Casey's
really
got that look on his face. Casey, you want to talk, man? You look like you've been writing down the notes again.
No. I'm reading the updates on Twitter of AV's press conference, just seeing if he said anything.
Nothing of note, I'm sure.
Nothing of note, no.
Yeah.
Like the energy. Didn't execute.
Shocker. Let's look at next week. Colorado, New Jersey, Vegas, and Arizona. Are we going to get any points? I don't know. Anybody want to guess how many points we can get out of these 4 matchups?
You know what? I'm going 6 points.
What's wrong with you?
Points.
You're crazy.
All right.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
Live dangerously.
I'm betting 6 points.
I did that, and we fell on our faces.
That would be a very Flyer thing to happen, though, right? Like we're all ready to fire the coach and everything, and then this happens, and that can't take place anymore.
Yep.
At that point, just shoot me.
Okay.
Just of mice and men me.
Can I be honest with you?
Here we go again.
Like, yeah, we gotta cool it with that reference.
I'd rather you just lie to me.
But like, to Casey's, well, not really Casey's point, but Casey's kind of suggestion of 6 points, like, if all of a sudden we just like turned on a dime, right, and we start winning, let me be clear. I don't want this team to keep losing. I don't want us to get to a point where it's like we've got to blow it all up or we got to say goodbye to AV. If all of a sudden they turn things around, hell yeah. Like that's what I want to see happen, you know? But again, with the way things have been, the players that we don't have in place right now because of injuries, it's just hard for me to see. It's hard to imagine them getting any win at this point in my head.
Right.
9:46 tonight. AV's getting fired.
Shut up, Derek.
I'm calling it. 49 more minutes, fellas. But until then, Hoagie, you got a dad joke for us this week, man. Lighten the mood. It's getting too tense.
Oh, which one do I have here for you, boys?
He's got a list of them.
You know I do.
Just rattle them off.
All right. What do you call an ugly dinosaur?
AV.
Hey.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. An eyesore.
Oh,
Okay.
I like it. Go ahead, John.
No,
You're trying to hold back.
I'm not
Just trying
doing
to
it.
figure it out.
You're not in the mood this week?
No,
First time I've seen you think.
That's all right.
All right.
I typically don't need to think. It's just intelligence just oozes from me.
Michael wants to make clear here that none of the dad jokes are his.
From the
It's
father.
a good thing because they all suck.
Screw you with the mustache.
Oh, all right. Well, before we get to the Twitter handles and all that good stuff, big shout out to our affiliates, Flyers High and Wide. You can find them on Twitter at FlyersHW. 5 Minute Major as well with Master and Dave. Find them on at 5 Min Major Pod on Twitter there. Awesome guys all around. And now, Hoagie, let everybody know where they're going to be able to find you, man.
Pod Street host for all the hot takes and all the Lawton content.
And Matt Casey.
Dweeb.
Pod Street Casey. That's CAS.
Spelled out.
Spelled out.
Live it. Love it. All right, John.
Yeah, you can find us on all your various podcast listening receptacles. We have hit a little snafu with Apple Podcasts just because we changed over to Spreaker, but that doesn't mean you can't listen to us elsewhere. You can find us on Spotify, something called These Nuts, Spreaker. We're on YouTube. I don't think it's actually called These Nuts. It's like Deezer or something, but you might have to pay for it. But we're out there elsewhere, and we'll eventually be back on Apple as well. Yeah.
Once I stop being lazy and figure that end of the thing out, you'll be able to find me on Twitter at PodStreetBob. John's on Twitter at PodStreetGobe. You can find all of us on Twitter at PodSTBullies. All four of us scoundrels, if you will. Schmucks. Schmucks is a good word for it. I feel like I use that term too often. But I'm not even going to leave you with the Let's Go Flyers. It's been how many episodes? Like, let's just
go.
Yeah, I'll leave you. Let's just go.
Let's go, Chuck.
Goodbye. Just
bye now.
See ya.